Well, good afternoon, everyone. I know I said it before, but wow, this is a fabulous group of people. Have y'all seen yourself? I wish I would have brought my phone up here to take a picture. I'm gonna have to bring it back with me next time. It is my honor, my extreme honor, to welcome you to Rise and Thrive, the 40th birthday celebration for the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Happy birthday! My name is Jasmine Brett Stringer, and for those of you who may not know me, I am on a mission to help people get through this thing called life, right? By helping them embrace the possibilities and seize the day. And I do that as a professional speaker, MC, lifestyle expert on television, and as a narrative consultant. I want to say thank you so much for supporting the work of investing in the transformative futures for women, girls, and gender-expansive people. I'd like to begin today by honoring the sacred lands on which we live, learn, play, and work. The land we call Minnesota includes the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of 11 sovereign nations. We pay homage to those who were here before us on this land, the 7 Anishinaabe nations of the Chippewa and Ojibwe, and the 4 Dakota nations. Along with these 11 tribes, we honor all the indigenous peoples of this territory, many from tribes which were never formally recognized by the federal government. Furthermore, by respecting our purpose for being here today, it is important to acknowledge Black ancestors who were taken from their homeland and brought here involuntarily to build this nation as we know it. We acknowledge those before us, those among us, and those who are yet to come. We have a role in acknowledging our history, and we are responsible for the journey in healing, resourcing, and reparations. We invite you to learn more at the links on the monitor. Now, among our fabulous guests today are longtime supporters, community leaders, new friends, board and staff of the Women's Foundation, and some speakers that I must admit that I cannot wait for you to meet this afternoon. One housekeeping note, that restrooms are located in the back of the room. If you need a prayer room or nursing room, please see our event staff wearing all black, and they also have a pink ribbon that says staff on their name tags. And they will make sure that you have access to one of those dedicated spaces. Now, why are we here today? We are here because we are celebrating 40 years of a powerful legacy and a vision for feminist and racially just future. And I would like to thank the generous sponsors who helped make today a reality, Best Buy. Thank you. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for being the presenting sponsor of this event and a long-time partner of the Women's Foundation. And more importantly, thank you all for taking the time to be here. I am excited to hear from our incredible speakers, and I hope you are too, to reflect on the work and to get deeper into knowing what it takes to drive transformational change with girls, women, and gender-expansive people. And now, please welcome Jenny Weber, Chief Marketing Officer of Best Buy, to share a few words of welcome.
Thank you, Jasmine. That was lovely, and great reminders to get us all kind of grounded in the right headset today. I am really honored to be here, so thank you so much for having me. And I'm very, very proud to represent Best Buy and the Best Buy Foundation today. What a gift to be able to celebrate 40 years of the Women Foundation of Minnesota. And I was reflecting on the recent article in the Star Tribune about the Rest Up grant. I thought it did a really nice job of talking about the story, and I loved seeing my friend Gloria in the article. And I was thinking about, in my job, I get to think a lot about customers and consumers, and so I know a few things about our culture and what goes on, and I can tell you that in general, women do not rest. We put everybody else ahead of us. We take care of our families, we take care of our jobs, we take care of our communities. The other thing that I know to be true is that our culture does not value or prioritize rest, right? We're the hustle culture. And so it's oftentimes looked down upon if you do take a rest. And who needs it more than our community leaders? They need the rest to be able to lean in and do what they do. So what occurred to me is this big question. If not for the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, who? Who would have prioritized rest and given space and opportunity for it? If not for the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, who would have spent the last 40 years focused on investing in the elimination of inequity and the creation of economic security? Who would have provided all women and others who are underrepresented space and opportunity and investment? I took a second and checked out the timeline on the back wall, and I highly recommend looking at it, and you can see some of the really impressive and impactful work that has been done in our community. And the question is, who would have done it if not for this organization? And you know you're doing something right if when that question is asked, there's a gap. You're filling an important gap in our community. And it's so impactful and so differentiated. Our community is better because of the work that this organization has led. And I'm very proud that Best Buy has continued to support these efforts and have partnered with you, including in the Young Women's Initiative. We too lean in to provide support and space to an otherwise unfilled gap. We provide support to teens through our teen tech centers that are across the country. We currently have 5 in the Twin Cities, with 1 more coming this year. And these centers provide a really safe place for teens. It gives them access to technology that they might not otherwise have, really unique, cool technology. A lot of the students love using the technology around music and arts, but they learn all kinds of things in STEM and coding as well. And these centers provide a really safe place for them. They get mentoring and coaching. So here's to another 40 years of all of us filling in the gaps, doing what needs to be done in our communities to make them better for all of us, and to getting a good rest in once in a while. I very much look forward to today's celebration, and I really appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jenny and Best Buy. And now, please welcome poet and spoken word artist Autumn White Eyes for a moment of grounding. More about Autumn is available in your program.
Hami takiapi, Dayan wachiankapi, Autumn White Eyes amachiapi, na lako mi chaje ki wambli ohiti kawi, wazi ahaha amataha na laha mini luzaha atua he awati, chante washtea na pe chuzapi ikshto. I said, hello, my name is Autumn White Eyes. It's good to see you all. My Lakota name is Wambli Ohitikawi, which means brave eagle woman. I am from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, where my homelands are, and I currently live in Rapid City, where our sacred Black Hills are. Today I'm going to be performing a few of my poems to ground us. It's such an honor to be here to share my artwork with you and also to celebrate the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. I'm so very grateful. I want to give a trigger warning for my poems. At any time, if you feel uncomfortable, you're welcome to leave the room. I won't be offended. But yes, have y'all heard poetry before? Yeah? Please feel free to snap. If y'all want to snap with me for a second, you could say, that was lovely, whatever. If you want to engage with me, you're welcome to do that. So the first poem I'm going to share with us all is called For the Indigenous Woman. When we were little girls, men stopped in their cars and told us to get in. We ran and ran until we couldn't run anymore. I see you. I am you. At the age of 19, it happened again. Hey, you, yeah, you, I'm talking to you. Following us in their car, we ran and ran until we couldn't run anymore. I see you. I am you. He pushes his way into the window and I scream. I see you. I am you. In a dark college basement, he pressed his body up against mine, and when he pinned me against the wall and scraped into my insides, I thought it was my fault for agreeing to dance with him. I collapsed on the floor, and my roommate held me as I cried, I see you. I am you. I wonder how many times I could have ended up as another murdered and missing Indigenous woman over and over. I ask myself why we have not done more for you, for the Indigenous women, the women who watch over us, wipe away our tears, feed us, clothe us, bathe us, teach us, for the women who just are, who no longer get to enjoy the things they once did, to live the lives they had planned for themselves, to love the people that they loved, for the women who did not yet become women, who did not get a childhood, who did not dance, who did not graduate, for trans women and two-spirits who are forgotten from the movement yet are some of the most targeted, who have always been a part of our Indigenous societies but are never given the respect they deserve and are misgendered even in their deaths, for the women who are not always perceived as women but something to be conquered, for the women who are none of these things, who are not stereotypes of what an Indigenous woman is supposed to be, whose deaths and disappearances we should still be outraged by anyway. I am sorry. I am sorry we have not done more for you. Scrolling through news feeds, another woman goes missing, murdered, assaulted. Anime was a Mi'kmaq woman, a mother to 2 daughters and an activist, a fighter, executed by Native men. Tina was Anishinaabe and 15 years old. She was searching for her birth mother, but Tina didn't make it there. She was found in a river, and the man who did it was found not guilty. Savannah was a Spirit Lake Dakota and Anishinaabe woman, a mother who never met her daughter because she was stolen, taken because she was pregnant. Savannah, mutilated and found in a river of faith, was a Halawa Saponi woman. I met her once. We received the same scholarship. She was as sweet as honey, a student whose degree was taken from her, found, murdered, and assaulted in her apartment. Jamie Lee was an Oglala Lakota woman who was two-spirit and trans, who walked the same streets I once walked. She moved to Sioux Falls for a fresh start, to start her dream. She was stabbed 7 times. How many more whose names I do not know because they are missing, because their names are not reported until they are found in rivers, whose names are never circulated because society does not care. Why have we not done more for you, Indigenous woman? Indigenous men, why have you not done more for us? Do you not see we will not survive without Indigenous women? What will you do to stand up for your people? Why is there not more outrage for Indigenous women, for the Indigenous women whose lives were so much fuller than their deaths, for the Indigenous women who deserve so much more than they are given? You are the earth. You are the strength. You are so much more than your death or disappearance. You are the love of the people, Indigenous woman. I wanted to share that poem to ground us in all the beautiful work we do for gender justice. And the state of Minnesota especially, I know, has high rates of missing and murdered Indigenous women. So I encourage you all to learn more about this issue. The next poem I'm going to read, I hope is a little bit lighter. It's about the Ojibwe women and Lakota women who raised me. I am Ojibwe on my mother's side, and I'm Lakota on my father's side. And this poem is called Native Women with Loud Laughs. Ojibwe women with loud laughs raised me, taught me joy, the art of debate in a high pitch. Lakota women with loud laughs taught me humor, spilling the tea and drinking the tea, teasing and heavy roasting, laughs so loud shaking our bodies from the gut. Native women taught me not to be quiet. Native women taught me natives are not quiet. Listen intently, listen with purpose, and sting them with words so powerful we shake their white ancestors in their graves. Thank you. And the last poem I'm going to read for you all is, also I want to give a shameless plug for my book of poetry. It's self-published. It's called Instructed by Hawi, and Hawi is our Lakota mythology for the moon. So this book is called Instructed by the Moon. And so this next poem I'm going to read, I wrote it for my nieces. I have twin nieces, and we're from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, where we deal with high suicide rates. And I wanted to write this poem to help encourage their self-esteem and to remind them of the power that they have. You are the children lying in the cold snow at Wounded Knee. You are Unchi's prayers. You are the hair they cut from her head. You are the stories your Gaka told. You are the songs that he sang. You are the tears on his cheek. You are the sundance hidden in the prairies. You are the heat in the Nipi. You're the sweat on Lekshi's back. You are the ache in Ina's knee. You are the fry bread she holds in her hands. You are Ate stories of Resball and finally making it to state. You are the Tiblo down the street. You are the Chue who pulls the all-nighter for her 15-page paper. You are the eagle feather with the graduation cap hanging off the side. You are the moccasins that hit the ground under the fancy dance. You are the beadwork that took hours to make. You are the eagle feather given for every achievement. You are the fist at the rally fighting pipelines. You are the water protectors who will camp day and night. You are the seventh generation they said would always come. You are Mashke's humor and Bebela's first laugh. You are the Chukchi speaking ancestors' language. You are indigenous. You are over 500 years of resistance. You are indigenous. You are the sunshine that lights the sky on the days they call Columbus. You are the light. You are the light. And you are power. Thank you.
Well, hello. Hello, hello. Let's take a breath. Whew. Let's take a breath. I'm so grateful for the reminder of what our ancestors had to live through for all of us to be in this room today. When we think about the investments that the Women's Foundation of Minnesota is making, the dream and the opportunity is for 7 generations from now to be benefiting from the investments that we've made today, as we have benefited from 7 generations that have fed into us. Thank you, Adam, for bringing that, for balancing what is a celebration with the reality, and bringing reality into celebration, because we know that with every challenge, there is a survival story that becomes the testimony that allows all of us to understand how we can make it through. This is the work of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, and we are grateful for you spending this time in celebration of this milestone. We welcome you, our partners, our grantees, our donors, our community, the women, the humans, the non-gender conforming people, and all of you that support the rights of women and girls now, yesterday, and tomorrow. My name is Shonda Smith-Baker, and I am the board chair of this fabulous organization. Woo, woo, woo. What I have learned in my years of knowing LaCora is that whatever room she's in, she's going to be the first person to woohoo. So if I don't have anybody else but LaCora, I got LaCora. And you know, if you know the energy that she brings, and you know the energy that came before, and the energy that has been mounting throughout the Women's Foundation community, as we came today to celebrate and gather and hold the bold legacy of this foundation. We are in an era that is ripe with challenges, but yet we are here to celebrate in many ways that it is time to be radical as it was when this foundation was founded. It started with a group of like-minded women. Mary Lee Dayton made the first $1 million gift to an idea that women and girls should be invested in, and she brought others along with her. And some of you will remember in that time, 40 years ago, what we were fighting for to bring equal rights to women. In that time, it was immense challenges, politically, culturally, socially. Women's rights activists were fighting for the passage of laws in housing, education, workplaces that would end discrimination based on gender and hold more institutions accountable to gender equity. I think we might still need some work. But if you ask me, it was still radical for that time, and some of you may remember. Fast forward to the last few years, with our city and philanthropic sector witnessed a watershed moment of gender and racial justice. In 2022, the foundation formed a committee who approved an even more radical strategic plan that would move and pave a path forward towards that North Star, committed to resourcing more than 200 grantee partners across the state dedicated to women, girls, and gender-expansive people. From passing laws for paid family and medical leave to being a haven for safe access to reproductive and maternal care. Those very grantee partners are in the room with us today. We thank you for everything that we see and we don't see. Thank you, and we honor you.
In honor of the founders, the trailblazers, the pioneers, and our partners doing the work on the ground to change lives, change culture, and change systems, we are excited to share with you our first ever Rest Up Awards to the 40 organizational leaders that we've just granted to. If the past few years is any indication, we know that we need to invest in rest because the work will always have some investment. And what I would like to add to that is that the time working is not always the most exhausting piece. It is a time thinking about the work. It is the weight of the work. It is the competing priorities that we are navigating. And if the women don't understand what we are going through, then who will? If we're not investing for us to have rest so that we can come back and be our best selves in the work, who will? There is more to be done. And as for now, you will see in the program booklet that our team has put together for a festive afternoon to celebrate with you. I want to extend the gratitude to the Women's Foundation of Minnesota staff, Gloria, and team for making today happen, and our supporters for making this possible. Thank you, Best Buy. I got a lot of Best Buy stories, but I'll tell you later. They've invested in me and my leadership over time, and I'm so grateful. I thank you for today. I invite you to practice joy with us as we honor our new and longtime partners, give gratitude to all of you who are making this world possible and creating a more transformational milestone together. In the spirit of Mary Lee Dayton, who said, "Women know what they are doing. I know you know what we need to do." And I hope you enjoy the program, and thank you again for being here today to celebrate the Women's Foundation of Minnesota.
You know, as we talk about the work, one of the things that I know that is extremely important for all of us involved in this important and powerful work is to have people that not only inspire you, but they support you and they show up for you. And Shonda is one of those people for me. So thank you so very much, Shonda, for being that person and for your remarks. It is with great pleasure. I am so excited. I met this person today, and I immediately was drawn to her, and she's probably like, who is this crazy person, and why won't she leave me alone? But she doesn't know that she is my new friend, so and I will be emailing her and sliding into the DM, so she better not forget me. It is with great pleasure that I introduce you to our keynote speaker, Representative Lee Finke. Representative Finke made history last fall when she won her election for the Minnesota House of Representatives, becoming the first openly transgender person to ever serve in the Minnesota legislature. Now, I think that deserves a round of applause and some snaps and a woo-hoo, right, LaCora? Woo-hoo! In March, USA Today named Lee the Minnesota honoree for Women of the Year. With a background in journalism, filmmaking, and activism, Lee is a passionate advocate who wrote the bill to protect access to gender-affirming health care in Minnesota. And she's part of the legislator's first Queer Caucus. Her bio is in your program if you want to learn more about her. She is fabulous, isn't she? And we are tickled pink, right? Tickled pink today that she is with us. So please welcome Representative Lee Finke, my new friend.
My biography has never sounded better. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, that's a very ELCA response. If you don't know me, as you heard, my name is Lee Finke. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I represent portions of St. Paul and Roseville, as well as Falcon Heights and Lauderdale in the Minnesota House of Representatives. I'm also the executive director of the newly formed Queer Equity Institute, a nonprofit that I started to enhance civic engagement for the LGBTQ community in the state of Minnesota. I want to thank the Women's Foundation of Minnesota for the invitation to be here today. I am still new to spaces like this. I was just saying to Shonda that this is the kind of space I'm in for the first time. I'm still doing everything I do for the first time because I haven't been in this world very long. And it's truly an honor to be able to be here with you all. And I'm so proud to represent you on this 40th anniversary. Congratulations on everything that you have done. And as a new partner in this work with you, I look forward to everything that we will do in the future together. So thank you, and I'm very honored to be here. The theme of this evening is Rise and Thrive. It's hard to imagine a better phrase to capture this moment in the state of Minnesota. The last several years have been extremely difficult for this nation, as we all know. And depending on who you are, where you live, and what body you inhabit, it has been almost apocalyptic. That may seem like too strong of a word, but for many people in my community, across America, it is not strong enough. My community faces an existential threat. And though trans people are the largest community, although trans people have the largest target on our back, this threat is not just to the trans community. It is a threat to every community that stands against the white, patriarchal, heteronormative systems that have plunged this nation into such a dire crisis. But we all know the urgency. Roe is gone, affirmative action is gone, the Civil Rights Act is being gutted, marriage equality is under attack, trans people are facing eradication, our public education system is being dismantled, and on and on and on. So how has Minnesota responded to this extreme threat? We rose up. We rose up at the ballot box, and we elected the first 3 Black women to our Senate in our state's history. We elected the first transgender woman and the first Two-Spirit representative in the House. Shout out to Leash Kozlowski. And we established the first queer caucus in our state's history. Yes, we went from 0, no queer caucus last year, to 14 members of the queer caucus this year. It is transformational. We also elected a government that understood the urgency of this moment and acted. We protected abortion and reproductive rights. We banned conversion therapy and protected healthcare access for LGBTQ people and our undocumented neighbors. We passed paid family and medical leave. Thank you to Ruth Richardson. We created an entirely new agency simply to focus on the needs of our children and families. We passed significant gun control legislation. We passed free school meals for all students. We funded housing and education and climate and environment, and on and on and on. Yeah, for real. It was a transformational year. There is no other way to describe it. In fact, it was such a transformational year that the word transformational became a cliche on the floor of the House of Representatives. Every single bill was transformational because nothing had come even close to what we had done in any one bill, and we passed dozens and dozens of those bills. So it's true, Minnesota rose up, and in doing so, we transformed the landscape of our political and legal Minnesota. But rising is not the same as thriving, and our theme tonight is Rise and Thrive. I think thriving is actually going to be the hard part, because thriving depends on following through. We must follow through on our promise to trans kids. We must follow through on our promises to protect abortion. We must reach every Black, Latina, and Indigenous person who needs the resources we have passed. We must reach every one of our homeless neighbors, our victims of police violence, our victims of domestic violence, and let them know not just that we have acted, but how they can benefit from those actions. If we pass a law, but that law cannot be accessed by those who need it, we have done nothing. Sorry. It keeps me up at night to think that trans families are moving here, and are we going to be able to do what we said that we would do? A little off script there, but that's okay. Okay, so it is our job to see the state through to the thriving phase of Rise and Thrive. I am proud and grateful to be a part of this moment in Minnesota's history, to be the first trans-elected person, to serve with the community that I serve now, to work with the unbelievable advocates, activists, and individuals who are doing this work in Minnesota. What we are seeing in this moment in this state is truly transformational. I hear every day from people who are inspired, who long to get here because what we are doing is different. And I am so proud to be a part of it. And I am committed, as I hope all of you are, to ensuring that everyone is able to reach the thriving that all of this work is meant for. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for your transformational words, Representative Finke. And I too, I read these articles and I stay up at night thinking, oh my God, what can we do? I know where my office is, Jade is the receptionist. And I asked her, I said, Jade, are you connected to like a system of people coming to Minnesota? Or is there a way that I could send medicine to someone in a different state? Because these are important issues and they do weigh on us. And so as you heard, we are in an era of critical changes. And one of the conversations is about how collective care and intersectionality looks on the ground. And it speaks to why the foundation invests in the ecosystems that ensures women, girls, and gender-expansive people thrive. Please join me and some of the Women Foundation's grantee partners leading the way. I would like to invite Khadijah Cooper to join me. Khadijah is Director of Sexuality Education at Annex Teen Clinic, where she implements community-driven and inclusive sexual education program for young people, parents, caregivers, and professionals. Her youth-centered expertise is going to be a call of action for all of us today. I would like to invite Sarah Curtis to join me. Sarah has worked in the anti-violence field for over 15 years and is now the executive director with Men as Peacemakers based in Duluth. As a longtime partner of the Women's Foundation, Men as Peacemakers works to create communities free from violence in which all people, regardless of age, race, or gender feel safe, equal, and respected. Next, I'd like to invite Zadeh Harut, Executive Director of Seeds Worth Sowing. Zadeh is a birth advocate, consultant, community organizer, writer, farmer, ooh, girl, and we gotta talk about that farming, and raised in Minnesota. She founded Seeds Worth Sowing to provide economic and housing support and to build community connections through mutual aid and harm reduction to underserved parents and caregivers in the Twin Cities. And now, if we could please, and I'm gonna stand for this introduction, welcome the incredible Ruth Richardson to the platform. Thank you, Ruth, for your leadership and service to our great state. Ruth is phenomenal, and she is a servant leader. She is the president and CEO of Planned Parenthood North Central States and is the first Black woman to lead the 5-state affiliate. Ruth made history in 2018, becoming the first Black person elected to represent her district in the Minnesota House of Representatives, which she recently retired from. During her time in office, she passed more than 50 bills that were signed, 50 bills that were signed into law, many of them focused on health equity and reproductive justice. Their full bios are in your program, and you're gonna wanna learn more about these amazing grantee partners, the work that they are doing collectively for well-being, health, and justice. Hi, let's just take a breath.
Hey.
Woo. This has been a great party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. Okay, from the Foundation's research on status of women and girls and intentional listening sessions, our state is leading the way in terms of healthcare access and outcomes for women, girls, and gender-expansive people. Yet, when we aggregate further, disparities and inequities for women of color are particularly deep. There's a need to talk about the intersection of issues and identities within collective care. What's a story about some of the trends that you're seeing in your work and how you're addressing that you can share? And this is for everyone.
Anybody want to start? Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and start. What a thought-provoking question. I think what really jumped to me right away is thinking about who is providing care. I think about representation. I think about who is servicing the community that we're working with. I think about the organization that I work with, being a Black woman and serving other Black young women and them seeing someone in leadership. I think about the educators that they're working with, talking about really personal and sensitive topics. Do they look like them? Do they share their experience? Because working really in a narrow of sexual health, it is really important that representation is, a part of the work that we do, because what it looks like for a young Black woman, experiencing a pregnancy is going to look very different for a young Hmong woman experiencing a pregnancy. And I think it's my duty to make sure that folks who are in these communities represent the communities, and I think that's really important. So that's one aspect of how I really think about the intersectionalities. And when people don't represent the communities, really thinking about what conversations are we having with them? How are we really walking alongside them in discomfort to make sure that they are providing care that the young people really want? Because we at our organization truly believe that young people are the experts in their experience. We just have information that we want to share with them. So I think that's what really came to my mind and what feels really important to me in this moment.
So representation and then walking beside those allies. Thank you. Sarah.
Bonjour. Hey, y'all. Do you see who I'm on stage with? Right? This is why representation matters. So being a little Shinabe, Scandinavian, indigiqueer girl growing up in Carleton County, Minnesota, where I still reside in Carleton County, Mukamano Nikamigenda. I still live in Cloquet. Never in my life did I think I would sit on a stage and have people listen to what I was saying, right? Never in my life, it was just my birthday, Libra season, look, Cora, right? I never thought I would live to be a 41-year-old woman sitting on a stage in front of the spaces and places, right? And I mean, to be asked is just, it's amazing to me. And I think about my very dear sister friend, Guadalupe Lopez, who works at Violence Free Minnesota. I will have these moments in my life, and I'll be like, why me? There's someone better. There's someone smarter. There's someone more dynamic on stage or something like that. And Guadalupe is one of those good sisters that will like kick your ass and make you soup at the same time, right? And she says to me, Sarah, people like you need to see people like you on that stage, so quit being stingy with your gifts, right? And so this is why representation matters, because I am just a Carleton County res girl, right? That gets to do some things and have some opportunities. And I hope everyone like me or that sees themselves in me knows that the world can be a lot bigger than what people tell you it can be.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for your willingness to be so much more than just a res girl. Thank you. Zade.
Well, I wasn't going to share this story, but I feel like it's in perfect alignment with what that question was. So this morning, I'm getting ready for this event, and a young black mother calls me, and she's having a meltdown. And she calls me, and she's like, I'm getting evicted in 2 weeks, and I am not mentally well. I feel like I'm going to hurt my children. She said, I've heard of your nonprofit, and I've heard of what you guys do to support black and brown parents and mothers and caregivers. I don't feel in a safe space right now. I just called CPS on myself, and you know what they said? You haven't hurt your kids yet, so we can't help you. So I'm trying to breathe through this, because I'm like, this person lives in Coon Rapids. I can't immediately leave. I have to tend to this event. But immediately what I thought when she said that was there's a misunderstanding and a misconception about how black and brown mothers and caregivers should be supported. On a social level, people kind of don't understand what it looks like to give support to us. They think that, the common law of babies being born into getting healthcare access is enough. And I just think that doesn't scratch the surface. So when you ask, what's the trends that I see, there's a misunderstanding that black and brown mothers, parents, caregivers have of what support looks like. A lot of us navigate in isolation, which adds layers and layers of problems. We nourish our futures with children. We are sometimes caregivers of our elders. And so there's just, I feel like a huge gap in understanding what does it look like to care for people that nourish vulnerable individuals. Because sometimes it's not mothers, sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's children taking care of each other, sometimes it's undocumented families taking care of one another. It's a different kind of embodiment of taking care of vulnerable people. So a huge misunderstanding for caregiving and taking care of vulnerable people, I think, is the trend I see with the families I support and with what I've experienced personally as a, single provider taking care of my 2 toddlers. So.
Thank you for that. I would agree. I'm a caregiver of my father in Atlanta, and so there is a misconception, and I'm dealing with that every single day. What about you, Ruth?
Well, as I'm reflecting on this question, and I'm thinking about the intersectional sort of piece of this question, I cannot have this conversation without acknowledging what today is. It's Fannie Lou Hamer's birthday.
Yeah.
And when you think about intersectionality and you think about the power of storytelling, Fannie Lou Hamer is essential to that. A poor, Black, disabled woman in the South. And when we think about so many of the intersectional issues that we face today, she was facing them back then. She was a sharecropper. And she was kicked off of the land that she sharecropped on because she refused to do away with her voter registration card. And we already know that sharecropping was a brutal institution. I'm the granddaughter of sharecroppers. And in 1940, my grandfather and grandmother worked 60 hours a week, 6 days a week, and their income at the end of the year was $0. We have voting rights are under attack right now, just as they were for Fannie Lou Hamer. She dealt with a forced sterilization against her will, challenges that we continue to see down to this very day as there is this mission to try to control people's reproductive health. And also in this space of where we are reflecting on the need for rest, we lost her too soon. And so I think that it's important that we recognize that so many of these intersectional issues that we're talking about today, they're not new issues. They're things that we've been grappling with for decades.
Yeah, and they always say if we don't learn the lesson, history will repeat itself. And history definitely has its eyes on us. So today, going back to you, Seeds Worth Sowing is focused on alternative resources, specifically mutual aid as a community-driven model. How do you see this as a working model, and what is the greatest need? I know you mentioned the misconceptions. What's the greatest need?
Well, mutual aid has been around for ages and ages. A lot of people have heard about it since the social unrest from unjust murders, but Black and brown communities have been using this to take care of one another for thousands and thousands of years. The idea is that there isn't a giver-receiver dynamic. We are all responsible to take care of one another, and there's no hierarchy in it. Specifically in the philanthropic community, there is this idea that there's a power dynamic, right? Like there's someone with financial access, there's someone with more common knowledge that helps the poor or that helps the most underrepresented. Mutual aid says that there is none of that. There is an idea that we can have a level of mutual giving and taking based on our needs, and dependent on what it is that we have the capacity to give, it can nourish, protect, and take care of a neighborhood and community and the vulnerable people within it. So I always say this, that mutual aid shouldn't be a response to emergencies, right? Like if there is, for example, we had the baby formula fund when there was a formula shortage, that was a mutual aid program. But that wasn't just something that we did one time. We've always been doing mutual aid in our communities. If you have an apartment complex and say there's a home that burned down in there, the neighbors probably want to create a caregiver bundle for that neighbor. That's mutual aid, right? When you think of communities here that are culturally specific, they do mutual aid all the time. So it's something that's been around for a long, long time. It's an effective model. I think that we need to do it more within other communities and industries and fields. And I love that it promotes that it's a collective thing, that we can all participate in some way to take care of one another. And so how this kind of embodies within Seeds Worth Sowing is that we have a large volunteer community. We would not be able to sustain without our volunteers. And we are primarily community-based in terms of donations and sustainability. Our volunteers know that when they take care of our families, they're taking care of their communities. You're reducing violence, you're reducing harm, you're reducing the potential surveillance of having systems come in and ripping families apart, which causes more violence in communities. So it's an effective motto. I'm going to continue to push it. I'm going to continue to encourage it, especially in philanthropic, fields. A lot of people forget that those impacted by harm know exactly what it is to heal ourselves. And it's so important that we have the trust from the philanthropic community that we can respond to the problems the best and that we know our communities the best. So I think that is why I just love mutual aid.
Thank you. I love that approach of the shared responsibility. It's a cooperative or a collective with everyone playing an important and equal part. So thank you so much. Sarah. Men as Peacemakers is focused on ending violence against women and children by engaging men. And one tool you use in your prevention work is the We Are All Connected framework. Can you break down the heart of how this framework works to end violence?
Yes. Man, it's like you forget you're supposed to talk and you're like, yes, a day. Yes. Whew, okay, back to it. I am an executive director. Okay, got it. No one tell my mom. So again, thinking, I always get really introspective around my birthday, right? And I did really easy math for myself when I started when I was 20. And so now I'm 41, so I know I've been in the movement for 21 years, right? It's very simple math. And I think sometimes people in my life do not understand how I can work with with gender-based violence for so many years and do so many things, especially because I'm like weird and extra most of the time, and people wonder and say, doesn't it like hurt your heart? Like, doesn't it make you bitter? Doesn't it make you like all of these different things? And when we think about we are all connected, the strategy we use within our organization is that understanding that in order to create the world that we know is absolutely possible, it takes involving everyone, not just people who look, think, and sound like us, not just the people who know the language of the Church of Social Justice and can use it at will, right? It takes building relationship with the folks around us and understanding that we are intrinsically interconnected. And then for us to be able to tell the story, right? When we are all connected does not mean assimilation, right? I get to be my weird little unicorn self, right? And still, right? Even though my mom said, please don't wear a dress with skulls today when you're going up on the stage, and I listen to her, we have flowers, right? But when we're looking at, that space, it means that we're able to tell the story of what we know will become, right? Again, I must be missing Lupe because she says these things that our prophets have not ceased to be born, right? It's not just a dream, it is a prophecy, right? Is that I know for myself, I imagine myself as a great-grandmother. Now my boy is 13, so hopefully I have a hot minute before that happens, right? And so I see myself, because I live way up in the North Country, and sitting in my rocking chair as an old woman, which in and of itself is a dream. I had no idea I'd get to be old. Now I think I'm gonna make it, right? And so I'm sitting in my rocking chair, and my little great-grandbabies are sitting around me, and they're going, Grandma, what you used to do for work, Grandma? Right? And their little round brown faces are looking up, and they're like, what you mean people used to hurt each other like that, Grandma? And they will have no concept. There has not been a generation of my family that has not experienced violence, and I believe in my DNA that I will live to see a generation that does not.
What a powerful Powerful, powerful vision, and thank you for sharing that. Ruth, you recently left the state legislature to focus on leading Planned Parenthood after leading some extremely critical wins, including family and medical leave, the creation of the nation's first office of missing and murdered Black women and girls. You mentioned in an article, and then I quote you, post-Dobbs, the healthcare landscape is shifting dramatically. I mean, there's whiplash in a number of ways. You know I love you, and I want to always honor you and say thank you and congratulations. But as you reflect, can you share more on what you meant by this shifting landscape?
Yeah, and I think it's important just from a grounding perspective to recognize that for those of us sitting up on the stage today, Roe wasn't that great. And I think that it's really important to understand that with Roe being overturned, now more people are feeling the fact that, around the challenges that we see. But I remember when I saw the leaked Dobbs decision before it was the final opinion. And as I was reading through it, I was saying, okay, this is not just about coming for abortion access. They're coming for contraception. They're coming for marriage equality. They are coming for like Brown versus Board of Education. Like all of this is really coming down to a states' rights issue. And when Dobbs was overturned, and I watched people take to the streets, it was a bittersweet moment seeing that turnout, because before Dobbs was overturned, Black women 3 to 4 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause. And we haven't seen anyone take to the streets, right? And with Dobbs now being overturned, what we are seeing is actually an increasing of that maternal mortality crisis in both the Black community and in the Indigenous community as well. And so the states with the most restrictive sort of practices as it relates to abortion care, gender-affirming care, they have worse health care outcomes. And we have to continue to remind ourselves that this crisis is not a true crisis because it's manufactured, because it does not have to be this way. Over 85% of those deaths are preventable. And it forces us as communities, as organizations, as advocates, and all the things that we are doing to really do some self-analysis around why decade after decade have we continued to let this persist. And we haven't even begun to talk about the infant mortality crisis as well, which is also a manufactured crisis. So with these changes, we are seeing a worsening of things that have, in terms of just thinking about healthcare overall. But again, I think it's important that we reflect on the reality that these challenges are not new.
Challenges are not new. And before I go to Khadijah, because we're going to wrap up soon, what would your one call to action, 60 seconds or less, for our amazing audience be that you'd want to share with them?
It's hard to nail it down to one call to action, but I think there are some things that we can be thinking about. Here in Minnesota, we don't have a morbidity review committee. We have a maternal mortality committee, but we are not analyzing the near misses where people almost die from a pregnancy-related cause. There are learnings to be had within those spaces so that we can prevent these things from continuing to happen. I think healthcare should be free for everyone. It is a human right, and as we have these horrific sort of disparities that we see within healthcare, they're not going to be fixed within a system that is based upon your access to healthcare being dependent upon what kind of job that you have. Because it should just be something base that all of us receive. And as I think about paid family and medical leave, that was a bill that we worked on in the state for over a decade. We finally got to the place in order to have that. But it's really important to understand that we need to ensure that the people who have been kept out of rest and respite for centuries in this country are included in that. And as Representative Finke was saying, it's not enough to pass these bills. We also have to make sure that the people who need them know how to take advantage of them as well.
Thank you so much for that. Y'all, gosh, this is such a good conversation, and I'm getting the signal of time. So I'm going to ask you this quickly, Khadijah, and then I'm going to ask you to share your call of action too. But at the Annex Teen Clinic, you work as an educator with young people who are leading the way in so many different ways as it comes to sex education and the consent agenda. Can you talk about some of the transformative ways you are seeing these young people lead in these areas, and then share your call to action?
Okay, I'm not gonna make us go over time. I swear. I'll be succinct and concise. Here's what I want to share about specifically, as you ask about consent. We have been teaching consent education forever, and what I really think is really important in the annex creates these environments in these classrooms where young people can be honest with their feedback. And what young people were telling us is they're like, we know this consent stuff. This is 101. And that was a call to us to be like, well, what is missing? How can we take this further? And so what that made us do is think really critically about our education and how we're doing it. And so now we have an educator who's going to Seattle next week to get trained in embodied consent, because we want to take that consent work further. And what we know about consent is it's verbal, but it's how can we also equip young people with the skills and the confidence to listen to their bodies? What does that look like? What does it look like to not only give consent, but to get consent? What does it feel like in your body when you don't get consent, when you really want to, and there's parts of your bodies that's I want consent, right? So how do we talk about rejection? How do we talk about getting rejected? How do we talk about telling somebody no when this is a person that you really care about? And really listening to your body when there's all sorts of things going on when we're in adolescence. And what I'm really excited about is we're gonna be able to take this consent work and give these young people the tools, and then they're gonna be having these experiences that is really gonna transform, or my hope is that it will transform their experiences when and if they decide to engage in any type of sexual behavior, because they're gonna be so in tune to their bodies. They're gonna know exactly what they want. They're gonna know exactly how their body's feeling, and they're gonna know exactly how to articulate that to their partner and talk about it with confidence and really assertiveness. Oh, okay, just take
I love that. No, take the mic, but
I'll keep going, take the mic. I love that.
Young people are gonna be so empowered.
Yeah, and that started because young people said what do you teach? We know that, we're smart. We're we know you're smart, but no means no. They're we know. And so that really challenged us to go further. And so I really am grateful to those young people that said we like you, but this education is basic and we ain't basic. So we're okay.
All right, yeah, I'm sure some adults could probably benefit from that consent.
Okay, just everybody take my card. We'll have a session.
Okay, so what's your call to action?
Yes, so really quick, my call to action as we think about giving and everything, just be really critical about where you're giving your money. I think in this world, we are a small organization, but we are really staffed with people who are our grant writers, but who's at the grassroots? Who's out there 3 years in doing amazing mutual aid work, who is getting overlooked? These are the organizations that need your support because they're in the communities they're in. So the call to actions, be really critical about who you're giving your money to and who they're giving their money to and who they're giving their money to. And is it going to community? Do that, I don't know. I just think we got to give it to grassroots because they're close to the issue. They're in community. They live with these people. They are doing it. So that's my call to action.
Thank you. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to you, Sarah. I know, I feel so bad, ends the day. But I want to encourage the audience to please connect with y'all after the program. Please take time to learn about their amazing organizations and the work that they're doing, and to ask them their call to action personally so that we can continue to support them. This has been an extremely robust conversation. And so thank you so much for the work that you do and for joining us today. It really means a lot.
Thank you to Women's Foundation.
So in changing gears, I would like to welcome a woman who really needs no introduction, but another woman who is so near and dear to me on a professional level. In my humble opinion, she is a North Star in our community and for women leaders and for our greater community. Please welcome to the stage the President and CEO of the Women's Foundation of Minnesota, Ms. Gloria Perez.
All right. This is wonderful. I am so inspired. Good afternoon, everyone. Jasmine, Autumn, Shonda, thank you for getting us started with such a inspirational conversation. Oh my goodness, Representative Finke, we couldn't be more grateful for the public service that you're giving, so thank you. You are truly a change maker. And our panelists, oh my goodness, we could have stayed longer to talk about what it really does take to have a culture of care. And so thank you. As a statewide community foundation, we are a crucial part of the ecosystem that amplifies and resources the vision and voices of communities. I know that you all share this belief in a brighter, more equitable future for women and gender-expansive people of every age. I know that you all share this belief that from the very beginning has been created through the foundation, where women have the power, choices, and ability to determine their own path. The foundation was founded by a powerful cadre of visionaries, philanthropists, scholars, organizers. We call them feminists. Some people don't like that word. That's okay. We believe the same as you. They were fed up about being told that they should accept the status quo. They used their power, their personal tenacity, brilliance, and passion to find new ways to break the barriers that kept women and girls from getting their fair share. Have you seen our impact report? I think it's here somewhere. I'm not going to find it, but it's very colorful, and I suggest that you check that out. In this last year, we've made more than $3 million in community investments, which is only possible because of the annual generosity of many folks in this room, our donors, foundations, the 1983 Society for Consecutive Giving, donor-advised fund holders, and Legacy Circle members who have named the Women's Foundation in their estate. Our impact in research and listening, grant-making, narrative change, advocacy, and convening would not be possible without you, and I think that deserves an applause. Our founders took action to create a different kind of future for women and girls, and they made sure organizations doing the work that mattered, the work on the ground, directly with communities, were resourced and could not just survive, but thrive. Among the many wonderful people in the room today, we have a few incredible founders. I think we're joined by Pat Cummings, Judy Healy, and Sandra Vargas, who were there in the beginning. We also have Ellen O'Neill, the executive director of the Women's Fund, as it was getting launched at the foundation. If I've missed anyone, please forgive me and give me a wave, but we really want to give these pioneers a round of applause and offer our thanks. Please stand. Thank you. This foundation was seeded, as you heard, by the imagination and lead gift from Mary Lee Dayton, and we honor her legacy through an award and have several Mary Lee Dayton Catalyst for Change Award recipients here today. These people exemplify the generosity and vision that makes it possible to grow nearly $50 million of community investments since 1983. So thank you, Kim Lund, Val Spencer, Blanche Hawkins, Susan Sands, Shonda Smith-Baker, Vanessa Goodthunder, and Lee Roper-Batker. We have gratitude for all of you. And my predecessor, Lee, in your 2 decades of leadership, you've grown us to new heights as a foundation to radically invest in our state's women and girls. Your passionate leadership sparked bold generosity and built cross-sector partnerships that have changed our inequitable systems for the better. So glad you could be with us, Lee. Thank you. So I propose a toast with my plastic water bottle. We stand on the shoulders of brave, audacious, brilliant, resilient women. Let us honor the people who dared to dream and do the work that got us here today. Cheers to all of you, my friends. So as you've heard, the foundation invests in community solutions. Over the summer, our team traveled to rural and greater Minnesota to see partners in Fargo-Moorhead and Waite Park outside of St. Cloud. We visited Mankato, Worthington, the Lower Sioux Indian community in Morton, Minnesota. And our partners in greater and rural Minnesota showed us that for all that has grown in their communities, our immigrant, refugee, indigenous communities and the growing communities of color there are still being left out. They need a change in narrative to make visible the vital leadership, activism, and collaboration that is happening there. They need to be heard, and they need access to deeper resources. Organizations in greater Minnesota are listening to and caring for huge constituencies, like We Are Clinic in Brainerd that has responded to the needs of its community to offer mental health services while providing desperately needed health care in the part of the state where it is needed most. I think about the breadth of services that our grantee partners are doing and providing, the importance of their work, and the weight that they carry. Our funding matters, as do our convenings, gatherings like this, investments in policy. And do you know what else matters? Our investment in individual leaders. The care they provide for themselves and their teams makes it possible to sustain them through trying circumstances, as we learned for the Committee Against Domestic Abuse in Mankato, who with a very small team serving a 9-county area is really doing an extraordinary job. It was stunning to hear about all the services that they are providing and the weight that they have on their shoulders. So what can we do? Well, first, this era has shown us a lot. Earlier this year, Elder Amoke Kubat said, "The COVID era has been a fierce teacher." We saw through the pandemic just how draining this work can be for organizations who are on the front lines in a crisis. When communities told us of the importance of investing in the well-being of their mind, body, and spirit, we listened. And that's why we've specifically identified holistic well-being and reproductive justice as an area that we are committed to funding. We have looked inward and increased our practices to make funding more flexible and without restrictions. And yet we know our nonprofit leaders, especially Black, Indigenous, women of color, and gender-expansive leaders, are facing burnout and fatigue. As we deepen our investments at the intersections of gender and racial justice, we know that healing is an essential component of well-being. For so many partners, like I saw firsthand in my early years volunteering for Esperanza United, their day-to-day work puts them in active and constant proximity to crisis, to trauma, and harm. We cannot expect our leaders to drive themselves into the ground, sacrificing their own wellness for the good of community. We have to change the narrative that tells us this is acceptable and expected. To sustain critical operations and interventions for communities, we must invest in rest. And we must invest in safety, and we must invest in leadership and reproductive access and care. This is all part of the more just world we seek when we give generously and lead on behalf of women, girls, and gender-expansive people across the state. I had a conversation this March on International Women's Day about hope and healing. In that roundtable, our partner, Suzanne Keplinger, said, "Philanthropy needs to take the risk and invest in healing practices to be truly responsive to what communities have been telling us." Coming out of that conversation, we knew we must do more to address the burdens facing the leaders at the forefront of our communities. And so we are committed to ensuring that we fund the support system needed to make rest, joy, and self-care possible for women and girls. This is what gender and racial justice looks like. Today, I celebrate that the foundation is making Rest Up Awards investments of $10,000 to leaders from 40 organizations to use in any way they choose to cultivate joy, care, and healing for themselves and their teams. You can see the new awardee list in our program and the collage of these leaders over here to my right. You may already know some of these leaders, but if not, you'll learn more about them in the coming months. I want to personally express gratitude for these leaders in the room with us today. If you'll stand for a moment as you are able, we'd like to appreciate you and all of our grantee partners who are with us today. When we talk about centering Black, Indigenous, and communities of color at the core of our investments in justice, the money must follow. But to truly transform, we need more than funding. Our systems have to change to support a culture of well-being and care. While we continue pushing on levers that create change, we can support a culture change in philanthropy too. To move funding to the people leading the work on the ground without restrictions, we've been doing multi-year funding and general operating funding to ease the burden of applications and evaluation. The Women's Foundation has been leading the field in these areas and will continue to invest through convenings, listening, and research, policy change, narrative change,